copulative compound equals द्वंद्व.
Explanation. A copulative compound is also known as a Pfandler compound. From traditional/Sanskrit grammar, all three terms mean the same. Backhand index finger pointing right. Copulative equals coordinative equals Pfandler. Key idea, comma, both elements are equal. Meaning is x and y. Examples, comma, bittersweet, bitter plus sweet. Actor, director, actor, and director. Conclusion. Tick. Copulative compounds are the same as Pfandler compounds, where both parts have equal importance and combined meaning. In Sanskrit grammar, compounds/samsa are classified into several main types. Besides Pfandler, copulative, the other important ones are 1. Tatyarisha. One element depends on the other. Meaning is determined by the second element. Example, comma, Rajapatra equals king's son. 2. Kamnadharaya, a subtype of Tatyarisha. One element describes the other, like.
So Tatpurush is Rajputra. Karmadhara. Tatpurush is when one element depends on the other. Meaning is determined by the second element. That's also one important thing. Karmadhara compound, a subtype of the Tatpurush compound itself, where one element describes the other, like adjective plus noun. Neel Kamal. One element describes the other. Neel Kamal, blue lotus.
Adjective plus noun. Example, comma, Nilakavana equals blue lotus. 3. Bahavri. The compound refers to.
Now we have Bahuvri, where a compound refers to something outside the compound, meaning one who has X, like Pitambar. Pitambar is one who has yellow clothes.
Something outside the compound, meaning equals one who has X. Example, comma, Pitamara equals one who has yellow clothes. 4.
Avyay Bhav. Samas begins with an indeclinable or avyay. Indeclinable is basically something that does not change its meaning within the language based on based on the grammatical requirements of the other elements. So मैं जाता हूँ, तुम जाती हो. So jana changes based on how it agrees with the subject. But that is not the case with indeclinable. Whole compound behaves like an indeclinable, like upgramam, near the village. Upgramam asti, aham upgramam asti. Sanskrit, aham upgramam asti, meaning I'm near the village.
Comma, begins with an indeclinable, avaya. The whole compound behaves like an indeclinable. Example, comma, apagaram equals near the village. Summary, main Sanskrit compound types. Dvandva, copulative. Tatyarisha, Kamnadharaya, Bahavrihi, Avaya Bhava. Conclusion. So, besides Dvandva, the other major Sanskrit compounds are Tatyarisha, Kamnadharaya, Bahavrihi, and Avaya Bhava. Yes, you're right, thumbs up. There are more detailed types in Sanskrit grammar beyond the basic 4-5. The main expansion comes especially under Tatyarisha compounds. 1. Main types. Recap. Dvandva, copulative. Tatyarisha, Bahavrihi, Avaya Bhava, Kamnadharaya, often treated under Tatyarisha. 2. Subtypes of Tatyarisha, important other ones. These are based on case relations. Vibhakti, Prathama Tatyarisha, nominative relation. Pratigaya Tatyarisha, object relation. Tritigaya Tatyarisha, instrumental. Chaturthi Tatyarisha, dative. Panchami Tatyarisha, ablative. Shashti Tatyarisha, genitive. Very common. Saptami Tatyarisha, locative. 3. Other commonly mentioned types. Vigu numeral plus noun compound. For example, Triloka, 3 worlds. Nan Tatyarisha negative compounds with na. For example, Asana equals impure. A Paplata Tatyarisha formed with a fixed accompanying word. Simple idea. Backhand index finger pointing right. Basic system equals 4 to 5 types. Backhand index finger pointing right. Detailed Sanskrit grammar equals many subtypes, especially of Tatyarisha. Conclusion. Yes, beyond the main compounds, Sanskrit grammar includes several subtypes like case-based Tatyarisha, Vigu, nan compounds, etc., making the system much more detailed than the basic list. Here's a clean, simple list of punctuation marks with their meanings/functions. Basic punctuation marks. Full stop/period. Ends a statement. Example, I study linguistics, comma, short pause, separates items, clauses. Example, I bought apples, oranges, and bananas. Question mark. Ends a question. Example, where are you going? Exclamation mark. Shows strong feeling or emphasis. Example, what a beautiful day. Intermediate punctuation. Semicolon. Links closely related sentences. Example, I was tired, I went to sleep. Colon. Introduces a list. Explanation. For example, I need 3 things, books, pens, and paper. Hyphen. Joins words. Example, well-known author. M dash. Shows range. Example, 2010 to 2020, comma, M dash. Strong break in a sentence. Example, he was late, very late. Quotation and related marks. Quotation marks. Show direct speech or quotes. Example, she said, I am ready. Apostrophe/single quote. Shows possession or contraction. Example, John's book, I'm happy. Brackets and others. Parentheses. Extra information. Example, he is here, for now, square brackets, add or edited information. Example, he, the teacher, arrived, curly brackets, grouping, mostly technical use, horizontal ellipsis, indicates omission or pause. Example, I was thinking, conclusion, punctuation marks help to organize meaning, show pauses, express emotion, and clarify structure in writing. If you want, I can turn this into a one-page exam visual sheet so you can memorize it quickly. Back clipping is a type of clipping where the end, that part of a word is removed, and the beginning is kept. Backhand index finger pointing right. So, long word, shorter word, keeping the front part. Examples, advertisement ad, comma, laboratory lab, examination exam, photograph photo, simple idea. Backhand index finger pointing right. Cut the back part, keep the front. Conclusion. Back clipping is a word formation process in which the final part of a word is dropped, leaving a shorter form that retains the original meaning. Yes, that statement is correct. Tick. Explanation. In lexical morphology, proposed by K.P.
Hierarchical strata is emphasized in the lexical morphology proposed by K.P. Moran and Paul Kuparsky.
Moynihan and Paul Kipinski, the idea of hierarchical strata, levels, is very important. What are hierarchical strata? Word formation happens in ordered levels, strata, in the lexicon, comma. Each level has its own rules for affixation and phonology. Affixes are added step by step, not all at once. Key idea. Backhand index finger pointing right. Morphology is layered. Backhand index finger pointing right. Some affixes attach earlier, others later. Example, comma. Electric, electricity, electricities. Here. 1. Itty. Class 1 affix. Attaches at an earlier level. 2. Inflection is attaches at a later level. Why important? Explains why some affixes affect stress. Early strata do not affect stress. Later strata. This connects to Siegel's class 1 versus class 2 affixes. Conclusion. Thus, in lexical morphology, hierarchical strata show that word formation is organized in ordered levels, with different types of affixes applying at different stages.
Now, what criterion is used to classify English affixes into two broad categories in lexical morphology? It is the phonological behavior.
Yes, that is correct. Tick. Answer. The criterion used is phonological behavior. Explanation. In lexical morphology, as proposed by Paul Kipinski and K.P. Moynihan, English affixes are divided into two broad classes based on how they behave phonologically, especially with respect to stress and sound changes. What this means: some affixes affect stress and trigger phonological changes. Others do not affect stress. This difference in phonological behavior is used to classify them into Class I affixes, stress affecting; Class II affixes, stress neutral. Example, comma, electric, electricity. It affects stress class I. Harvey penis. Most does not affect stress class II. Conclusion. Thus, phonological behavior, especially stress effects, is the key criterion for classifying English affixes in lexical morphology. Yes, that is correct. Tick.
I'm way far below what are the um, morphologies there. Some affixes attached later, earlier. Mm.
Moynihan and Kipinski extended and refined it in lexical morphology. Yes, that is correct. Tick. Explanation. A copulative compound.
This thing is going. Okay, so where are the derived nominals according to the lexicalist hypothesis in the lexicon?
Answer. According to the lexicalist hypothesis, derived nominals are in the lexicon. Explanation. The lexicalist hypothesis, associated with Noam Chomsky, proposes that word formation, especially derivation, takes place in the lexicon, not in syntax. So, derived nominals, nouns formed from verbs/adjectives, are created and stored in the lexicon. They are not generated by syntactic rules. Example, comma, destroy, destruction, refuse, refusal. These derived forms are treated as lexical items, not as products of syntactic processes. Conclusion. Thus, according to the lexicalist hypothesis, derived nominals belong to the lexicon, where word formation processes operate. You're right to question this, but the correction is backhand index finger.
Okay. Now, the lexical hypothesis was proposed by K.P. Moore and Paul Kuparsky and not Noam Chomsky, because earlier it had said that lexicalist hypothesis Noam Chomsky. Okay, but lexicalist hypothesis was indeed proposed by Chomsky in 1970. Remarks on nominalization.
Pointing right, the lexicalist hypothesis was proposed by Noam Chomsky, especially in remarks on nominalization, 1970. Where Moynihan and Kipinski come in. K.P. Moynihan and Paul Kipinski did not propose the lexicalist hypothesis. Backhand index finger pointing right. They developed lexical morphology, which builds on the lexicalist idea, introduces level/strata, explains class I versus class II affixes. Simple distinction.
What role do transformations play in the derivational morphology? They are irrelevant.
That is correct, Tick. Answer. Transformations are relevant to derivational morphology. Explanation. Under the lexicalist hypothesis associated with Noam Chomsky, derivational morphology takes place in the lexicon. Transformations are part of syntax, not morphology. So, backhand index finger pointing right. Word formation, like destroy destruction, is handled before syntax, inside the lexicon. Backhand index finger pointing right. Therefore, syntactic transformations do not apply to derivational processes. Example. Refuse refusal. This change is not due to a syntactic transformation, but a lexical, morphological process. Conclusion. Thus, transformations play no role in derivational morphology, as derivation is handled in the lexicon, not in syntax. Yes, that is correct, Tick. Answer. Before the work of Noam.
For Chomsky's work in 1970, how were denominalizations generally classified? They were deverbal and desessential. Now, deverbal means they verb of verb. Desessential is not the correct term used in the book. It's desentential, that is, of this sentence.
Chomsky, 1970. Nominalizations were generally classified as deverbal, desentential. Explanation. 1. Deverbal nominalizations derived from verbs. Example. Refuse refusal, comma, destroy destruction. 2. Desentential nominalizations derived from whole sentences or clauses. Example. John destroyed the city. John's destruction of the city. Conclusion. Thus, before Chomsky's 1970 work, nominalizations were broadly classified into deverbal, from verbs, and desentential, from sentences. That confusion is very natural. The words look misleading, but they don't mean without anything. Key point. The prefix to here does not mean without. Backhand index finger pointing right. It means derived from. So, deverbal. Cross mark, not without verb. Tick. Derived from a verb. Example, comma, destroy destruction. Desentential. Cross mark, not without sentence. Tick. Derived from a sentence. Example, John destroyed the city. John's destruction of the city. Why the confusion happens. In English, do often means remove, like deforest. But in linguistics here, it behaves differently, more like from. Simple trick. Backhand index finger pointing right. Deverbal equals from verb. Backhand index finger pointing right. Desentential equals from sentence. Conclusion. So these terms do not mean absence, but rather origin. They tell you where the nominalization comes from. The answer denominalization is incorrect. Correct answer. The foundational basis for Robert B. Lees's work, The Grammar of English Nominalizations, was transformational grammar. Explanation. Lees worked within the framework developed by Noam Chomsky. He analyzed nominalizations as being derived from underlying sentence structures using transformations. So, backhand index finger pointing right. Sentences transform nominal forms. Example, John destroys the city. John's destruction of the city. Here, the noun destruction is derived from an underlying sentence structure by transformation. Conclusion. Thus, the basis of Lee's work was transformational grammar, not denominalization.
Now, denominalization, is it even relevant in linguistics? What is it? Because that's what's mentioned in the book.
Good catch. This needs a careful clarification. Thumbs up. Is denominalization relevant to linguistics? Backhand index finger pointing right. The standard and widely used term is actually denominal derivation, not denominalization. What does it mean? Denominal derivation means backhand index finger pointing right, forming a new word from a noun, nominal base. Examples: noun verb, bottle to bottle, hammer to hammer, noun adjective, child childish, hope hopeful. So what about denominalization? It's not a standard technical term in most linguistic literature. Some books may loosely use it, but they usually mean backhand index finger pointing right, derivation from a noun. Important distinction: denominal equals from a noun, deverbal equals from a verb, desentential equals from a sentence. About your earlier question, Robert Lees, if your book says denominalization, it is likely backhand index finger pointing right, either loose/incorrect usage, or backhand index finger pointing right, referring to word formation from nouns, not the basis of his theory. Because tick, Lee's work is fundamentally based on transformational grammar, not denominal processes. Conclusion: tick, denominal derivation from nouns is a valid concept. Warning sign: denominalization is not a standard core term and may be used loosely in your book. Tick, it does not describe the theoretical basis of Lee's work. Yes, that is correct. Tick. Answer: Noam Chomsky opposed that proposition.
Chomsky opposed in terms of nominalization.
Robert B. Lees regarding nominalizations. Explanation. Robert Lees, 1957, analyzed nominalizations using transformational grammar, treating them as derived from underlying sentence structures. Later, Chomsky, 1970, disagreed with this view. Backhand index finger pointing right. Chomsky argued, many nominalizations are not syntactic transformations. They're instead formed in the lexicon. Lexicalist hypothesis. Key difference. Lee's nominalizations come from syntactic transformations. Chomsky nominalizations are lexical, not transformational. Conclusion. Thus, Chomsky opposed Lee's transformational analysis of nominalizations, proposing instead that they are formed in the lexicon. Yes, that is correct. Tick. Answer.
The question is, who proposed the idea that transformations do not perform derivational morphology? And the answer is Jackendorf.
The idea that transformations do not perform derivational morphology was proposed by Ray Jackendorf. Explanation. Jackendorf argued that derivational processes are not handled by syntactic transformations. Instead, they belong to the lexicon, word formation component. Backhand index finger pointing right. This supports the broader lexicalist view. Derivation lexical process. Transformation syntactic process. Conclusion. Thus, Jackendorf proposed that transformations are not responsible for derivational morphology, reinforcing the separation between syntax and word formation. You're very close. Just phrase it correctly. Correct answer.
What did Chomsky argue against in terms of derived nominals, that they derived by transformations, not verbs?
Noam Chomsky argued against the idea that derived nominals are formed by transformations from verbs. Explanation. Earlier, for example, Robert B. Lees derived nominals were thought to come from sentences via via transformations. Example, comma, destroy destruction from a sentence. Chomsky's argument. Chomsky said, cross mark, derived nominals are not produced by syntactic transformations. Tick, they are formed in the lexicon, lexicalist hypothesis. Conclusion. Thus, Chomsky argued against the transformational derivation of nominalizations from verbs, claiming they are lexical, not syntactic. Good question. This is about wording, not the idea.
So is this statement incorrect? What did Chomsky argue against in terms of derived nominals? They had derived by transformation from verbs.
Statement. They are derived by transformation from verbs. Backhand index finger pointing right. This is incorrect as written. Grammatically wrong and slightly unclear. Correct version. Backhand index finger pointing right. They are derived by transformation from verbs. Now, as a claim, early view. For example, Robert B. Lee's tick. Correct. As something Chomsky argued against tick. Also correct. What known Chomsky argued against. Backhand index finger pointing right. The idea that derived nominals are formed by syntactic transformations from verbs. Final clarity. Tick. Concept correct. Cross mark. Your sentence incorrectly phrased. Tick. Best answer. Backhand index finger pointing right. Chomsky argued against the idea that derived nominals are formed by transformations from verbs. The correct term is auxiliation. Tick.
Auxiliation. Developing lexical items into auxiliaries.
Explanation. Auxiliation is the process by which full lexical verbs gradually develop into auxiliary verbs. Backhand index finger pointing right. So, lexical item grammatical auxiliary. Example, go, my verb, movement, going to, future marker, sentence, I am going to eat. Here going to functions like a future auxiliary, not just a movement verb. Simple idea. Backhand index finger pointing right. Word loses full meaning becomes grammatical helper auxiliary. Conclusion. Auxiliation refers to the grammaticalization process where lexical items evolve into auxiliary verbs. Auxiliary, helping verb. An auxiliary is a verb that helps the main verb to
Now, what is auxiliary? Auxiliary is a verb that helps the main verb to express tense, aspect, mood, voice, or emphasis. It does not carry the main meaning. It supports the main verb.
Rest tense, aspect, mood, voice, or emphasis. Backhand index finger pointing right. It does not carry the main meaning. It supports the main verb. Examples. 1. Tense, aspect. She's eating is helps show present continuous. They have finished have shows perfect aspect. 2. Future slash modal meaning. I will go will shows future. You can swim can shows ability. 3. Passive voice. The work was done was helps form passive. Types of auxiliaries. Primary auxiliaries. Be, have, do. Modal auxiliaries. Can, could, may, might, will, would, shall, should, must. Simple idea. Backhand index finger pointing right. Main verb equals main meaning. Backhand index finger pointing right. Auxiliary equals helper verb. Conclusion. An auxiliary is a helping verb that works with the main verb to express grammatical information like tense, aspect, or modality. No, that's not correct. Cross mark. Key difference.
So the main verb can be considered to be the auxiliary. No, that's not correct.
Backhand index finger pointing right. Main verb equals auxiliary. Main verb carries the main meaning, comma. Auxiliary helps the main verb express grammar. Example, she's eating. Here, eating main verb, actual action, is auxiliary, shows tense slash aspect. Another example, they have finished. Finished main verb, have auxiliary. Important point. Sometimes the same word can act as both, but not at the same time. She's happy is equals main verb. She's running is equals auxiliary. Conclusion. Backhand index finger pointing right. A main verb cannot be considered an auxiliary. Backhand index finger pointing right. They have different roles, even though the same form, like be, can function as either depending on the sentence. Almost, but not quite thumbs up. Sentence.
So in the sentence she is happy is acts as the main verb and the auxiliary.
She's happy. Backhand index finger pointing right. Here is equals main verb tick. Happy equals adjective, not a verb. Important point. In this sentence, there is no auxiliary verb. Is this the main verb? A form of be used as a linking verb. Compare with this. She's running is equals auxiliary. Running equals main verb. Simple rule. If be is followed by an adjective slash noun, it is a main linking verb. If be is followed by a verb, I, past participle, it is an auxiliary. Conclusion. Backhand index finger pointing right. In she is happy. Tick is equals main verb. Cross mark. It is not both main and auxiliary.